conversation has been around Elias Pettersson. And I feel like sometimes, when you were a kid, remember when you were a kid and you did something wrong and your parents called you either your full name or and added your middle name into, so when you did something wrong. I feel this is happening with Elias. When Elias Pettersson isn't playing his best hockey, we call him Elias. When he's playing great, he's Elias. I feel like I've noticed that. Like, oh, he's Elias when he plays good, and when he's bad, he's Elias. So apparently, he is Elias. But he took a lot of criticism, speaking a narrative, for the game against the Colorado Avalanche, where by his admission, he said he didn't play very well. But it's, he has faced a lot of criticism this year, and I think, like, was he great against Colorado? No, but I don't think the criticism has necessarily been fair. Do you know how he had the same amount of points against Colorado that Connor McDavid had against Colorado in Saturday's game? 0. So, like, I'm not hearing a huge criticism about a very poor defensive play that Leon Draisaitl made that allowed Nathan MacKinnon to skate down the ice and toss that thing in front of the net with 0.5 seconds to go. That ultimately cost the Oilers a point and may have cost them first place, a real true shot at first place at the Pacific Division. So I don't see the criticism towards Pettersson being fair at this point. Maybe I'm looking at this differently, or like looking at the numbers. I don't see it.
Is it because he just got the contract extension and now there's a bigger, microscope?
Well, this was before the contract. This was before the contract extension too. We were starting to hear the criticisms,
if we really want to point to one area where the Canucks are having problems, is that they're not getting enough from the top players. They're just not. Like, it's the effort's okay, but it's not quite there where it needs to be at this point of the season with the intensity of the competition ramping up, right?
Yeah, they definitely.
Other than JT Miller, I should accept JT Miller from that, because he has really been, I think, doing his part for them mostly, but. Other than that, and the depth scoring's dropped off. I know it hurts not having Dakota Joshua, but there's just not enough there right now. It's a little bit on the middling side.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that overall JT's probably been the most consistent out of the top 6. But I think I've noticed the most that the domination level that the top 6 had in the first half of the season kind of just hasn't really been there, or at least been there in any sort of consistent manner in the back half. Or at least since the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there's anything we can pinpoint down to as to the reason for that, or if it's just maybe fatigue at performing at that level. But I feel like maybe in contrast to what Tyler just said, like, I feel like the bottom 6 has been a little bit more consistent in just being overall reliable and showing up for games if the top 6 isn't. But I think the top 6 has definitely dropped off as far as that dominance factor for sure.
I think they definitely missed the consistency factor of what was the third line to begin the season. Yes. Whether it was Blueger or Suter at center with Joshua and Garland. Ever since Joshua went down, they just haven't had that consistent, just almost like relief valve that third line was, because you could rely on them to go out there and have a strong forechecking cycle, like physical shift that helped build momentum, and then the next line would go out there and build off of that, and you would have the snowball effect there. They haven't been able to build off of good shifts, and that third line with Elias Lindholm is starting to look better. With Podkolzin in there, they still haven't had that just pure consistency that third line had at the beginning of the season.